For an incredible 400 years, one single dynasty absolutely dominated eastern India. They brought stability, wealth, and some breathtaking cultural achievements. We're talking about the Pala Empire, a true powerhouse that shaped the history of Bengal, but for some reason is often overlooked. So let's dive in and uncover what made this golden age so special.
Before the Palas came along, the entire region of Bengal was just trapped in total chaos. No central government, just a bunch of petty chieftains constantly fighting. It was so bad they actually had a name for it, Matsya Nyaya, the law of the fish. Literally, the big fish eat the little fish. And it's right out of this anarchy that one of history's most fascinating dynasties was born.
All right, so here's our game plan for this explainer. We're going to follow the whole journey of the empire, from its wild, almost democratic start, through its absolute military peak, its incredible ability to bounce back from near collapse, its massive cultural footprint, and its final inevitable end.
So, how exactly does a society pull itself out of complete and total anarchy? Well, the answer here wasn't some bloody conquest. It was something almost unheard of back in the 8th century, an election.
This is just a remarkable moment in history. Think about it. Instead of another violent power grab, a council of rival chieftains got together and made a practical choice for peace. They actually elected a guy named Gopala to be their king. This move was a political masterstroke that united Bengal without a single major war, setting the stage for a dynasty that would last 4 centuries.
So with stability back on the table, Gopala's successors didn't just sit back and relax. Oh no. They went on to forge a truly formidable empire, hitting a real golden age under 2 particularly brilliant rulers,
Dharmapala and his son Devapala. These 2 were the real architects of the Pala Golden Age. Through just masterful military strategy and some seriously shrewd diplomacy, they pushed the empire's borders all the way across the vast Gangetic Plain. They really made the Palas the dominant power in northern India. But, the Palas weren't operating in a vacuum. They were locked in this massive 3-way power struggle called the tripartite struggle. You had the Palas in the east, the Pratiharas in the west, and the Rashtrakutas down south, all fighting for control of the prestigious city of Kannauj. This was like a centuries-long grand strategic game of chess for total supremacy.
So how did the Palas hold their own in this fight? Well, one huge reason was their legendary military, and specifically their massive corps of war elephants. Some accounts from the time, probably a bit exaggerated, but still, claimed the Pala king could lead a mind-boggling 50,000 elephants into battle. That's basically the ancient world's version of a tank division.
And hey, don't just take my word for it. This quote from a 9th century Arab merchant named Suleiman says it all. He observed that the Pala army was bigger than its 2 biggest rivals, the Rashtrakutas and the Pratiharas combined. This wasn't just some regional kingdom. At its peak, the Pala Empire was an absolute military superpower. But of course, no empire stays on top forever. The Pala story, though, isn't just one of slow, steady decline. No, it's this dramatic cycle of almost completely collapsing and then making these stunning comebacks. These were the real roller coaster years.
Just look at this timeline. You can really see the incredible resilience of this empire. After its first peak, it starts to shrink. But then, bam, a ruler named Mahipala I launches this amazing comeback, retakes lost land, and even holds off powerful invasions from the Cholas in the south. But then the cycle repeats. The empire declines again, and this time there's a huge internal rebellion where vassal chiefs actually kill the emperor and take over the kingdom's heartland. It totally looks like it's game over, but it's not. Another strong ruler, Ramapala, rises from the ashes, crushes the rebellion, and engineers one final glorious revival.
Okay, the military conquests and the political drama are fascinating, for sure. But the true, lasting legacy of the Pala Empire, that's all in its incredible contributions to art, religion, and learning. This is why they really matter.
The Palas are remembered as the last major imperial power on the subcontinent to be patrons of Buddhism. And they didn't just support it. They fueled a full-blown renaissance, building these magnificent monasteries, called viharas, that became beacons of learning for all of Asia. They poured tons of resources into huge universities like Nalanda and founded new ones like Vikramashala, turning them into magnets for scholars. They created this unique school of art you can see influencing art all across Southeast Asia. Even the earliest forms of the Bengali language started showing up in texts written under their rule. And they weren't isolated either. They had diplomatic and trade ties from Indonesia all the way to the Middle East.
Now, while they are famous for their love of Buddhism, the Palas weren't exclusive about it. They also actively supported Hindu traditions, especially Shaivism, building hundreds of temples. This really paints a picture of a complex and pretty tolerant religious landscape where different faiths could coexist and even thrive under royal patronage.
After 4 centuries of all these ups and downs, the final decline began. Because even the most resilient empires eventually face challenges they just can't overcome, and that marks the end of an era.
That final amazing revival under Ramapala, it was glorious, but it was also short-lived. After he died, his successors just couldn't hold the huge empire together. Old rivals started attacking again, and internal rebellions flared up one more time, dealing the dynasty a fatal wound.
The fall really happened in stages. First, the empire was just hollowed out by all that internal fighting. This created a power vacuum, and that vacuum was filled by the Sena dynasty, who had once been loyal vassals. They started chipping away at Pala lands until, by the middle of the 12th century, they had taken over Bengal entirely, bringing the 400-year reign of the Palas to a close.
So we're left with this question, aren't we? The Palas rose from chaos, they dominated northern India, and then they fell, just like so many other empires. But they also left behind this incredible legacy of art and language and learning that totally outlasted their political power. It kind of makes you wonder, what's the real measure of a great civilization?
If you found the story of the Palas as fascinating as I do, there are plenty more incredible histories from the subcontinent. Make sure you go check out our South Asia history playlist for more.
And of course, for more deep dives into complex topics just like this one, make sure you subscribe to Notebook Summaries. Thanks so much for watching.